Welcome to the Healers Café, conversations on health and healing with Manon Bolliger, a retired and deregistered naturopathic physician with 30 plus years of experience. Here you will discover engaging and informative conversations between experienced healers, covering all aspects of healing, the personal journey, the journey of the practitioner, and the amazing possibilities for our own body and spirit.
So welcome to the Healers Café. And today I have with me Peter Benson, and he's a global public speaker and CEO of Energies of Service. Now, I know it's about copper healing, but and it's to do with quantum field. And let's stop there because I'm going to say something not quite right about this. And I'd rather, just welcome you and maybe just start with what, obviously this is for healing and protection, but what got you into this field in the first place?
About 6 years ago, we ended up going through let's just put it nicely, a family restructuring. And I was doing a bunch of research, do a bunch of reading, I should say. Did Michael Newton, Brian Weiss, sorry, got those mixed up. Dolores Cannon, the regressions. And with all of the stories they came across with, they seemed to correlate quite well with, the multitudes of regressions and information. I'm like, okay, so if this is true, and there is this much supposedly going on the other side, what's going on here? So I started realizing more and more, okay, so we're not seeing everything that's here. Mm-hmm. And I ended up finding Slim Sperling and his tensor technology. And, with my background as a mechanic and engineering technician, I've been working with metals and precision and torches and all these things in order to make these the tensor rings. I'm like, all right, let's make this work. Get a go at it, see what we can do. It took me a while before they'd actually start to work, but they did start working, and I was like, ooh, this is pretty cool. And really, the first time I was able to actually get some feedback, I wasn't sensitive to really feel them. It was actually a friend of mine who was actually doing sound baths, and she was using the tensor rings around her crystal bowls. And I gave her 4 rings to experiment with, and she texted me back, can I have 10 more? Because she had the chakra bowls, the higher chakras and lower chakras. So she had 14 bowls. And she was like, yeah, it was just, they got louder, they resonated longer, and it was a physical change in the crystal bowls, which nothing else that she had could do. So it was really interesting.
Change like the frequency that they emitted.
Yeah, they changed a lot of things. So it was like, so they got louder this got generally louder. Well, it wasn't like over like magnitudes, but they got louder. The resonant frequencies of the bowls got higher a little bit, so that did change the frequencies. And then when you spun them up, they would stay spun up for a lot longer, probably 10, 20 seconds more, easily. So, when you spin them up, they usually don't last that long. You spin them up with the tensor ring, and and they just kept on going and going and going. So she had to change the way she played. So it was really interesting. And that was really the first time I had actually seen a physical, real world change from a tensor ring. So that was really cool.
This may sound crazy, but a tensor ring, just to make sure we're on the same page. What is that?
Let me grab one real quick.
Okay.
I have them right here. Tensor ring is something like this. This is a small one you could use for like a pendant size.
Right.
And it's copper wire. That's actually straight wire gone out. It's folded over, twisted up, and then cut to specific links that give you a different frequency. And the tensor rings are dialed in by their frequencies. The ones we have now are, have frequencies from the root chakra to star chakra, and there's a few more in there as well. So they're different. They do different things. So it's pretty cool.
So, because I know I was sometime 2 years ago, I interviewed this fellow, and I can't remember his name. So, no disrespect to him if he ever listens to this, but he was from Germany, and he created these, like, so they were in copper, and his background was engineering as well, and he was making them like into, I wonder if I have one of these hanging around. Yeah, I gave one to my kids, and and my family, and they all think I'm crazy, but that's okay. But he said that it was that it would really help with protecting from excess electromagnetic
Yeah.
influx. And so, and they were, quite big ones. So that's all my knowledge of it. I don't know, I mean, I have them. I'm willing to try, but I can't know before and after, because I don't know how to judge it. So how can you tell me a little bit more? Because I should have asked more questions.
Oh, no, no worries whatsoever. I want to give we'll go for about 5 minutes on a little bit of the history on
Absolutely.
what led up to where we are today.
Yeah.
Uh, where, so I was making the tensor rings, and I started making them, with a tensor ring like this, and I would actually do wire wrap in crystals and put the crystals wire wrapped in the middle, and they would just float. And it was actually, friends of mine actually loved them. They were super strong, powerful. You could feel it and all that fun stuff. So it was like, okay, so this is interesting. So we have tensor rings that do audio, tensor rings that with a necklace that do this. At which point, I had a channeled message from Archangel Metatron that came in and says, okay, you need to make some anklets. And he said, use a tensor ring, put the crystals inside the tensor ring, and cover it with a copper mesh. And this tool, these anklets, will basically allow people to keep their vibration, theirs, while we go through these times. And this was about 6 years ago now. And it took me about 1.5 years to actually iron that out and get them to actually be viable, usable, without completely breaking down. Really, it's just trial and error, multiple prototypes to make it work. And it was just like, okay, this is cool. And it went from anklet to a pendant, just because I had a friend of mine who was an accountant, and her husband was very much grounded in the 3D and saw those, and she couldn't explain them to him in a way that made him just accept it. So as she explained it, he was thinking, oh, that's woo woo. Why are you wearing that? It's like, it's not real science. That's not real. And basically gave her such a hard time. 3 days later, she gave them back. But they were working, and she liked it, and it was very helpful for her. It's because it's actually protecting your energy field. And she's doing, what is she doing? And she's doing taxes, right? This is tax season, so she's dealing with people that are extremely emotional about having to pay taxes. How much money do I have to pay taxes? Am I getting any money back? So it's kind of very much an emotional protection. So that's where the pendant came from. Basically, they came in, it's like, okay, you can do this, put it in the pendant like you were doing with the wire wrap, but do it differently. And that's where we started using resins. And that's where the Metatron pendant came from. And then from there, as I was building the anklets and the pendant, the Metatron pendant, I'd be getting channeled messages. Okay, take the Metatron and add these. And then when you use that one, that's going to be, the energy of it was completely different. And that one, the first one was Archangel Michael pendant, which was that version. So it was the same shielding effect, but it was calming and clearing your energy field and emotional healing. And then it just continued on and on. And it's like, we have a multi-dimensional now, and we have a post-traumatic stress one right now that is extremely powerful. And it's for first responders, military vets, and stuff like that. And we have it in the hands of ex-military, police, and vets right now, and they absolutely love them. They absolutely love it.
So, I mean, again, it's an unfair question.
Yes.
I'll admit it, because because I've tried to get money to do research, and it's really difficult to get financing if they're not interested, or if it's something that is not going to make bazillion dollars in their, ideas. So, but do you have any type of, before and after, people feel good, but do you have it any way documented for those people that might be?
No, we haven't. It's one of those things. It's like, as you would know, it's like if you're running your own business, you're wearing all the hats.
Exactly. I totally get it.
I'm doing my own business, wearing all the hats and still working full time. And I don't have the bandwidth to do research on that level.
Yeah.
And I wish I did. I really do wish I did.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is I'm trying to get a connection with a group, maybe, Wounded Warriors Foundation or something like that,
Yeah.
and volunteer some product and let them do their own before and afters and let them do the research. So the only thing they're going to be utilizing is time.
Yeah.
Everything else, and that way they can do the research on that. That's my goal right now, is to do that type of research.
I mean, a lot of people don't require this. They'll just do it. They'll see what it feels like, and if it feels good, it's good. If not, but I do think there's a lot of potential to reach a lot of people if that bridge is sort of linked, which is why I have tried for, not 30 years, but for at least 20 to get research funding. And it's like, oh, I can't do all hats either. So it never happened. So I'm just like,
that's always the thing. There's not enough time in the day.
No, I totally get it. But so what kind of benefits do people get that you've heard them say, or just to get more understanding of it?
It's been all over the place on how people respond. Everybody is different, as you would know. We had a young lady who has always been emotionally sensitive, where even when she was little, she could feel how other people are feeling. So, super open empath and never shut down, to the point where she would have nightmares or dreams that were very emotionally charged because of how sensitive she is. She's even receiving while she's sleeping, where she put on the Archangel Michael pendant, and all of a sudden everything got quiet and it calms her down. And now she's actually very stable, and she was wearing it to bed and she's like, that's the best night's sleep I've had in, ever. And that was just one. We've had it with,
and let me just ask you a little bit more on, let's say in that particular case, did she find that it allowed her body to come back into balance, and therefore she could take it off, or she needed to have it to create that balance?
Well, the energy field that the pendants create is like a shielding effect.
Manon Bolliger here, and I want to thank you for taking actionable steps towards engaging your healing journey and helping others discover their path by watching, sharing, subscribing, and reviewing these podcasts. Every review and share helps spread the word, these different perspectives and choices and options for healing. And to thank you, I'd like to invite you to sign up to my free 7-sequence email tips on health and healing for everyday life. You can go to healerscafe.com tips. Thanks so much.
So it is, so some data that I do have, I don't have specifics because the individual that went and got this information and gave me the information, so it's anecdotal at best, at what we can talk about, is they were wearing the Archangel Michael pendant going into a MUFON event here in the Phoenix area. And somebody was walking around with an EMF meter and playing, because everybody's got their cell phones, and testing everybody's cell phone. Like, you got an EMF meter on there? Is that working? Nope. Okay. Is this one working? Nope. And he was having fun with it and came up to the pendant and it went quiet.
Yeah. Interesting.
So again, I don't have the information on the meter. I don't know if it's 3G, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. I don't know what frequencies it was. but it does say that it does do something for electromagnetics, which was interesting. So we need more studying on that. It's like,
Yeah, no, I
again,
get it.
time.
Yeah.
So that one, it does when you're wearing it, it does do the electromagnetic fielding protection, but it also protects you from the emotional. So when you're dealing with a lot of people that tend to be overbearing emotionally, not just, they kind of be animated and over, but their energy is really, really pronounced. It allows you to actually work and judge and, what do you want to call it, analyze based on what they're saying versus the way they're saying and projecting. So you can actually remove your emotional output and actually logically deal with what's in front of you. So people really enjoy that aspect of it. And I utilize that aspect of it in my day-to-day. So that actually helps a lot.
But you mean like it balances you as the one who has too much energy, or it balances you as the empath that receives all this energy?
Well, it's protecting you from being overwhelmed with their energy.
Got it.
But
Okay.
the Michael actually has turquoise, which is a calming stone, selenite, which is a clearing of energy. People put selenite bricks in their houses to clear
Yeah.
energy. And it has green mica, which is an emotional clearing crystal. So you have 5 crystals in there from the Metatron, which is shielding effect, and it creates that protective layer that we've actually seen anecdotal evidence on. But when you put it on, the first thing you really feel is like a calming right over your field. You just feel calm. And we can't separate, is it the shielding effect, or is it the turquoise, or is it the selenite clearing your energy, or is I can't tell which aspect of the pendant is doing doing that,
Right.
because they kind of overlap in their work. But it's amazing on how people feel. And what's really fun about them is it teaches people how to really function with intentions. So I tell people, it's like, we've been doing this for the last month, and it's been so fun working with people this way. We tell them, okay, put the pendant on and the anklets on. We haven't put them all on. And it's like, okay, so now tell the tools to clear all intentions. So they, internally, they don't have to say anything. They just think it. And it's like, okay, that's good. It's like, okay, now tell them to go to full power. And it basically allows the pendants to go to full power. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're like, okay, that's interesting. I've never felt that before. And then from there, we tell them to actually, okay, bring it down to a comfortable level. And then the next thing, they're very, very comfortable. And then we start working with them. It's like, okay, so if you want to work on something that they've been like emotional stuff, it's like, okay, let's work with, this is intention-based tool. So let's work on how it functions. So we tell them, it's like, okay, let's work on something that's really deep rooted that we want to clear, that's been causing you issues. You want to get removed from you, so you don't have to worry about dealing with it anymore. It's like, let's pull that out from the roots and then see how that works. And I've had multiple people in front of me just literally feel, it's like, you kind of feel them pull forward, and the pendant, it just kind of like, all of a sudden they kind of feel like there's something being pulled out of their chest. It's really interesting how that works. And it's like, okay, I'm just relaying how they're working with the tools. It's been quite the ride on how these things function and how they work. It's like, okay, I would have never have thought to put those 5 crystals together in an anklet ever.
Right.
I wasn't a crystal guy. I never was crystals.
You weren't. I was going to say because you said you were a mechanic, right?
Yes, mechanic and an engineering technician.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking through the crystal encyclopedia going, oh, I can do that. No, I had no idea.
No. It's a true download. Like you just.
It was.
Yeah.
And so these are angelic tools, and it's really interesting how they function and work, and they work with you and for you.
So how do
it's
you
been fun.
work with people who, let's say that I'm obviously open and curious. How do you decide on what would be beneficial for a person?
Well, it depends on for in general, most people would be really good with just a Michael pendant, right? that one gives you a shielding effect, calming, clearing, and healing. And it's like a daily, it makes you go through your day really easily, especially if, you're dealing with other people, or if you have to go out in public, you put the tools on, and then you're actually not exposing yourself to others. The biggest one I notice for people is, it's like, are you going into Costco all ready to go and get what you need to get, and about 10 minutes in, you're like, okay, I need to get the hell out of here, because you just feel overwhelmed. That's
Mhm.
the energy of the 200 people in the building,
Yeah,
and it's becoming, so, and if they're super, super sensitive, I would say, you'd put on, do the anklets first, because those are the extremely powerful grounding and protective energies that Metatron came through with. And then from there, if you still need more, you would actually get the Michael pendant on top of that.
Mhm.
Um, if you needed to do, like the post-traumatic stress, somebody that's dealing with
Yeah.
a lot of trauma, a lot of buried stuff that they don't really want to manage, but they don't know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
Um, the post-traumatic stress one has crystals in it that are designed to actually allow you to release.
Mm.
To the point where I had somebody was arguing with me about the pendant, and I sent an email back to him. I'm like, well, the pendant is obviously working, because are you really that mad at the pendant or something else? The
Mhm.
pendant is pulling something out that you wanted to get rid of. He
Mhm.
replied back to me as like, yeah, you're right. And he was really mad at something else, and he wasn't mad at me or the pendant. It was helping him pull it out.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't believe the words that came through on, the typewriter, the keyboard cowboy thing going on. I was like, wow. I mean,
Yeah.
he was mad. And the
Yeah.
next thing I just sent it back, and he's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Huh. It's interesting. Yeah. Another thought I had, just with PTSD though, right? Because a lot of that does lead to to different habits, whether it's alcoholism or drug use or whatever. That probably would be a study that you could
Yeah.
get maybe funding for,
Yeah.
um, or
That's what,
especially if
yeah.
psychiatrists or psychologists get involved, if the association's interested in that, because you would have a clear, um, once the PTSD is dealt with, then the habits are not that hard. It's really the trauma that keeps things alive, right? So
Yep.
that'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. The pendants have a tendency to, as we were saying before, it's like you ask it to pull it out. The post-traumatic stress pretty much brings things up to the surface so that you can
Yeah.
work it through. So you're not going to be doing it alone. You still have to go through, working with others to help you get through it.
Yeah.
And it's not a replacement for a doctor in any way, shape, or form, but it allows you to work through. And what we've noticed is it allows you to, I shouldn't say allows you to, it more of a compresses your emotional response. It's kind of interesting when you put it on, you just feel very calm, very stable. So it
Mhm.
doesn't allow the crystals in it, keep your emotional state from going too high to too low. So it kind
Mhm.
of keeps you very stable. So as things come up, you're not going to overreact or do whatever So
Mhm.
this is what we've seen with it so far, and it's been rather profound. And like I said, I really want to get this in the hands of people that can do some
Yeah.
testing and work with it. It'd be nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's crazy. Our time is already pretty well coming to a close. Any last comments or ways that people could get in touch with you, or things that you offer for people to learn more, or something you want to end with?
Yeah. Well, I have the YouTube channel, and we're on Facebook and the web and stuff like that. So all the tools have a very long description on. It's like it has bullet points up there. It's like, uh, do you need this? And then like, okay, this is what it can do. And it kind of goes through, walks you through, is it right for you, kind of thing. So it helps there. Um, but yeah, the website is energiesofservice.com. And you can find it under, YouTube is Energies of Service. Energies of Service everywhere. Um, and yeah, I'd really like to see people that can utilize these tools, get out there and, try them.
Mm.
It's more, I get a lot of testimonials where people just absolutely love the tools, and it's impacted their lives dramatically. Um, and that this is what we want to do. It's like, again, it's like when I'm going back 6 years ago, I would have never have thought I'm making crystal pendants based on archangels. They came through with I swear to God, they have a sense of humor. They're like, hey, watch this, see what happens. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can just see I'm now retired and I can just see something like that coming through. I
Yep.
actually had a guy who fascinating fellow who really works with these angels, and he says, oh, you have them coming all over, they're all over you. They're, you just, once you open up that possibility, you,
Yep.
you're going to be in for quite a surprise. So, so I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I think I'll wait, I'm not quite ready."
Oh yeah. Once you allow them in, they start. It's
Yeah.
Michael comes in, and I channel Michael at times, and
Yeah.
when he comes in and he wants me to understand this is something of an important message, he
Yeah.
will literally open up the floodgates to unconditional love, and I'll end up crying like a baby. And then I'm like, okay, I have to try to compose myself. And then, okay, this is what he was trying to tell me
Mhm.
because I can't talk. It goes that deep.
Right, yeah. Well, I have noticed, when I was working with patients, and I'm a naturopath, but one of the we're not supposed to say specialties. One of the fascinating things I love is called Bowen therapy, and it's a physical therapy. And I've often felt extremely connected to the person who actually invented it, his name's Tom Bowen,
Yeah.
but also Archangel Michael. I was like, I know I'm hearing, like literally feeling, hearing guidance, on what to do, when to step back. And I'm like, is it all in my head or is there more? Is it, I know.
No,
Well,
there's
since
more
then
in
I've
there.
I've allowed myself to, you know, to believe that there is more. But when I first started, I was like, no, okay, this is annoying. It's me, but it's not.
The coincidences and the synchronicities that go along with it when you start following that the little pointer in your head going, oh, do that and then do that. Okay, back off. Okay, do this.
Yeah.
When you start following that, the coincidences and synchronicities just start adding up.
Yeah, no,
It's
and that's
amazing.
that's what I found. I thought, what is the point of this level of resistance? Who's it
Yeah.
serving? It's certainly not me and not the client either. So
Yep.
anyway, great. Well, it was really fun having you, and thank you for sharing your invention and contribution
Oh,
to all of this.
well, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café with Manon Bolliger. Continue your healing journey by visiting thehealerscafe.com and her website, and discover how to listen to your body and reboot for optimal health.